So I went to the theater genuinely excited for Wolfman. The trailers looked pretty good, and I was hoping that it would break this January curse that we've been in since the beginning of the year. As you guys know from my last two reviews, The Damned and Den of Thieves 2 were both disappointing. But with Blumhouse's new horror creature feature, I was really hoping that we would get a little bit of a different result. So, does Wolfman deliver, or is the curse still haunting us? Let's talk about it. With his marriage falling apart, Blake persuades his wife Charlotte, along with their young daughter Ginger, to take a break from the demands of life in the city and visit his remote childhood home in rural Oregon. Soon after arriving, they're viciously attacked by an unseen animal. The family does everything they can to survive this ferocious assault, but as the night stretches on, Blake begins to transform into something unrecognizable. Now, Charlotte finds herself in a nightmare scenario where she must protect her and her daughter's life from the man she loves. So when I left the theater after seeing Den of Thieves 2, I left thinking that the movie was way too long and there was way too much going on. But this week, as I sat in the theater for Wolfman and the final scene faded to black, I literally said out loud, "That's it?" And Wolfman has a lot going for it. It has a solid cast led by Julia Garner, a haunting setting at an eerie cabin that honestly will be creepy even if there wasn't a dangerous animal running around, and phenomenal makeup and practical effects and some truly gruesome moments that made me cringe in the best way possible. But even with all that, the story still felt lacking. You could tell that the creative team behind Wolfman had a lot of big, ambitious ideas that they wanted to explore. Bigger set pieces, deeper scenes where they could dig into more of the relationships between Blake, his family, and Blake's father, who is a constant presence hovering over this entire story, and much more time spent with Julia Garner and the daughter character as they try to survive the father who's turning into a wolfman. All of which this movie sorely needed, but Blumhouse looked at the creative team and was like, "You can't afford all that, big dog." They had the creative team looking like Chris Rock and "I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker."
How much for an order of ribs?
$2.50.
Let me get one.
Right on. One order. One order ribs.
No. One rib.
One rib.
I sure am hungry.
But that's not to say that this movie is horrible. Far from it. But I kept feeling like there wasn't enough meat on the bone for the audience to chew on their drive home from a story perspective. Now, what the audience will walk away with are those gruesome practical effects that I mentioned. By far the most impressive aspect of this movie is the husband's slow transformation into the Wolfman. Teeth would fall out, bones would break and reset themselves, fingernails would be pushed out by impending claws. One of Blake's arms was deeply cut, and he decided to self-medicate by biting into it and ripping the flesh from the bone. It's the type of thing that make people cover their eyes and ask their partner to let them know when it's all over. One of the more interesting ideas was how the POV was explored during Blake's transformation into the Wolfman. They showed how his hearing had heightened in sensitivity and also what his vision looked like from his own eyes. His vision reminded me of the Upside Down in Stranger Things. It's close to the reality, you know, but it's almost like you're seeing things from a different dimension. I like the transformation process and the eventual look of the Wolfman, but we didn't get enough time to spend with him in that final transformed state, and his final form, if you will. A lot of the first half of the movie is spent with the family dealing with the original creature that they run into. It kind of turns into one of those, the monster that's on the good side versus the evil monster attacking us kind of tropes. You know, those movies or TV shows where there's a really monstrous clan of aliens or whatever, but one of them decides to join the good side and fight against all of his countrymen, species, or what have you. This is kind of what it felt like in the beginning of the movie. It's the evil Wolfman versus the father Wolfman going up against each other. Even though they tried to toss some emotional beats into that original Wolfman that attacked the family, very obvious emotional beats, I was far more interested in the Wolfman that was the husband actually having that conflict with the wife and the daughter. And when we finally do get to the section of the film where the husband becomes a real threat towards his own family, I actually thought that part was really good, which is exactly why I wanted to spend more time there. There's a cat and mouse game in the third act of the movie between the husband and the wife and daughter that I actually thought was really good, was really well done. Those practical effects that I talked about beforehand really came into play here because there is some chewing on some flesh that had me cringing in my seat. I was squirming, and it was actually really like I said, well done. So at the end of the day, it's fine. It is that appetizer instead of a full meal, or in other words,
One rib.
One rib.
I sure am hungry.
So what did you think of Wolfman? Did you feel like there was enough meat on the bone, or were you also craving for something a little bit more? Let me know in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys next time.